Bonjour, Nakadebini Sainishnakas, Megazi Dodem, and hi, I'm Jaime. This evening I am here to share with you some full moon teachings. Just be sharing the parts that I feel comfortable through this form of media. The other parts, I'll be doing a song. I'll put that in a separate video. And other things like putting out our tobacco offering, putting out our food offering and the water that we pray for. That'll be done on my own. Rest assured, though, I will put out tobacco on your behalf, thinking good thoughts for you, thinking good things. And I encourage you to make your own offering if you're able. I'm not talking like a big, huge plate of food, but if you make a nice supper, save just a little bit, a spoonful of each item, and put that out as your offering. And just acknowledge that grandmother moon and take that time to recognize that she is in the sky watching out for you. So I think we should start with a smudge and let you know I'll do a smudge, talk about the full moon teachings for the month, and maybe share a story. So I have my handy dandy smudge stick. Oh, to be honest, it's not quite dry, but that's okay. It still lights up very nicely. Smudge for you. Oops. This way. And a smudge for me. Just let that stress of the day melt away. Alright, we'll let that burn out as it will. And alright, let's talk about full moon. So for May, it's the flower moon. There are, the prairie crocus has already come and bloomed. The pussy willows have already bloomed. Some of the shrubs and other flowers, and trees are actually starting to bloom, if not already. And now some of the leaves on the trees are actually forming. And lots of plants are starting to really shoot up new growth, which is beautiful to see. Slowly and slowly our landscape is turning back to a nice, vibrant green. And everyone's hungry to see it. I know I am. I know that that's the time when I get to go out and just be in the bush and sing songs, hang out with my friends. We're still going to have to practice social distancing, making sure that we're staying safe, but it's a lot easier when you're outside in a big space. So I look forward to that. It's the time of year when the really, really bitter cold frosts are already done. We'll probably still see a little bit more frost this month, closer like in the evenings. Hopefully we will see a steady incline in our temperatures as spring continues forward. I know that lots of my friends have already prepared and planted a lot of their seedlings, and this is also known as the corn moon. It's when the farmers as well, they've already prepped their seedlings, and now they're actually starting to prepare the land to be ready to receive those seedlings so that they'll grow nice and strong and produce good food. And I know lots of my friends are doing the same. Was given a couple tomato plants, and although they're not doing so well now, I usually just plant my plants outside, and I get what I get, and that's okay for me. This is also known as the milk moon, and that's because lots of animals have already given birth or foaled or whelped, all those different names for giving birth to their babies, and they're nursing their babies, all the mammals. So that's why it's known as the milk moon. This is also the final supermoon for 2020. And that supermoon refers to the moon and the earth actually being closer together, and therefore looking at the moon, she'll look that much bigger and that much brighter. And then for the rest of the year, she'll be moving a little bit further away. Some other events happening in the sky this month. On May the 4th, we had a meteor shower. So if you had a chance to get out and enjoy that, fantastic. If not, we are actually passing through the debris field for Halley's Comet. So for the rest of this month, there is still a good chance of catching a few meteors here and there. Around May 12th, we're going to start to see the approach of Saturn and Jupiter, and it's called a conjunction, where those two planets are actually viewable in the same bit of sky because they're close together and closer to Earth. And they'll be closest, or the best chance to see it will actually be closer to December 2020. But if you start watching the sky now, you'll be able to pick out Jupiter. It's a very bright star, and hopefully you'll be able to notice, Saturn next to it. So get out there and do a little bit of sky watching, hopefully. Also between May 13th and 27th, we're hoping to see Comet Swan, and meteorologists kind of describe it as the peacock of the sky. Sometimes very elusive, sometimes doesn't show up at all. It's like when you go star watching and they call it bird watching, because you might see it, you might not. But they're saying that comet should be viewable to just, the naked eye. So you'd be looking for a nice bright, streaking object almost, and having that classic trailing tail behind it. Those are the teachings that I know for the full moon this month. Again, by no means a full comprehensive list, just the ones that I've heard of so far. So I know that last week was the week of the ECE, or Early Childhood Educator, and this week is the week of the CYC, or Child and Youth Care Workers. Really want to say thank you to our essential service workers. You've always been doing a great job, but through this whole COVID thing, many places have not skipped a beat. They know that they need to be there, and I really want to say thank you and recognize that is a very often challenging position, but those kids are always great, and they really do need it. They really need you. So thank you very much for making the effort to do that work and to be there, to be present, because that's what kids need. And that actually brought me to a memory of a story. So I'll share with you what I remember of the story, and I hope it's meaningful for you as it was for me. So in a village, there was a young boy who had lost his parents. So his mom and dad were gone, and that little boy didn't have anyone else to take care of him. So when it came time to harvest food, he was out there by himself, having to go get everything on his own, and he didn't necessarily know how much food to get, so sometimes he kind of went hungry. No one really took the time to say, hey, come on over, I'll help you, make sure that you know how much food to collect. Or he didn't have a whole lot of clothing. He had to figure out how to make stuff. So sometimes the stuff he was wearing, didn't look like everybody else's, because he was just winging it, doing his very best with what he had, kind of watching to see what others had, and trying to make it happen. Trying to make his own little dwelling to take care of, to house his stuff that he collected, or so they had a place to sleep. He did his very best to do what he could with what he was able to manage. The little munchkin trying to wrangle his own, his own setup is kind of hard to even think about. Unfortunately, the villagers did not, really take him in and say, we see that no one's there to take care of you, so let us help you, and we'll give you some clothes, we'll make sure you have food, we'll make sure that you have wood for your fire to keep warm. No one really did that for him. But for all those trials that he faced, all those difficulties, the happiest kid you would ever meet. Just going along life like, yeah, this is hard, but I got this. I'm pushing through and it's great. This is my life and I'm happy to have it. And the grandmother moon was watching from afar as she was, and as she does, I should say. And one day she came to that village and she talked to that little boy and she said, are you happy here? And that little boy kind of thought, I miss my mom and dad, but I'm pretty happy. I have some food and I have some firewood for a fire to keep me warm, and just enough clothing to keep me warm, keep me going. And he said, that's my life. I'm happy to have my life. And that grandmother said, wouldn't it be nice to have someone to take care of you? And he was like, yeah, but my mom and dad are gone. And that grandmother said, well, what if I took care of you? And the little boy didn't quite know what she meant, so she said, I would take care of you. I'd make sure you have, you would never have to look for your own food again. I'd make sure that you had enough. Make sure you have, what you need to keep warm, clothing and a warm space to be. And that little boy thought, wow, that sounds really nice. And that grandmother said, but it wouldn't be here. And the little boy was thinking, yeah, I'd come live with you. And that grandma said, we wouldn't live here though. We would live at my house. And that little boy said, well, where do you live? And the grandmother referenced up to the moon and said, that's where I live. I live up there. And the little boy says, but I wouldn't be hungry and I wouldn't, need anything. The grandma was like, I would make sure you have everything you need. And I would make sure you're taken care of. And that little boy said, yes, grandmother, I will come live with you. And the grandmother said, good, we'll go. But first I have to talk to the villagers. And when she talked to them, she gave them heck. She said, how could it be that this young person who obviously really needed help, and you didn't reach out, you didn't make sure he had food, you didn't make sure that he had the teachings he would need to take care of himself or to take care of a lodge, his own house, because he was alone. And she said she was disappointed in them. And so those villagers, they really saw that that young boy really needed that help. And they tried to offer. And she said, no, I'm going to take care of him. I'll take him with me. And so she did. And that's why some people say when you look up at that moon, you can kind of see the shape of a little person and that they're holding a bucket because he had gone to get water for Kukum so that she would be taken care of too. So that's the story as I remember it. And again, it makes me think of the early childhood educators and child and youth care workers because it brings a tear to my eye. It really does. That's one of the reasons why you are so needed. You are so appreciated. So thank you. I thank you for joining me for, this little bit of time. And I look forward to having a chance to sit with you again. To hold each other. We're really realizing that we're missing that human interaction piece. So until we have that opportunity again, I say good miigwech. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being there. I look forward to, again, seeing you in person. Miigwech.